Welcome to the Diary of a Former Fat Kid. I am your host and former fat kid, Brian Grizz Butler. Today, I have the privilege of hanging out with Dr. Sara. He is the head chiropractor and director at the Chiro One location in Old Town. Welcome, Sara. How are you?
Hello, thanks for having me today.
Awesome. So we can dive right in. Actually, I thought it'd be interesting to start off with some fun facts about you. So what are
Yeah,
three interesting or fun facts you want people to know about
let's see. Fun facts. I think, well, I always get a really cool reaction when I tell people I've married my high school sweetheart.
you?
So
Nice.
that's always a fun fact. I have a unique anatomy anomaly in my low back, which plays a role in why I ended up in chiropractic.
Okay.
Um, and what else? I have two sweet boys.
Awesome. Awesome. How old are they?
We got a 2 and a 3-year-old.
You,
So we got a 14-month little sibling gap here.
gotcha. Okay, cool. They get along at this point?
90% get along, 10% like claiming their own.
Nice, nice. So you mentioned an anomaly, anatomical anomaly in your back. So like how unusual is it? You have like a, percentage of the
Yeah,
population number or something like that?
that's a great question. Anomalies, there's they're probably they're so random in occurrence, and like unless you're getting films taken, you really wouldn't know
Mhm.
that it exists. I would say maybe 20% or less of the population may have an anomaly. Mine's a little bit mine's like really rare, so mine's probably like 3% or less.
Okay.
But yeah, so here we are. It's just an anomaly is something that growth was different for me, particularly in my low back,
Mhm.
and so that's what led me to it.
Gotcha. Okay. So how you said this was part of the reason you got into chiropractic care. Like how long have you
Mhm.
been practicing as a chiropractor?
I've been practicing for going on 12 years.
Wow. Okay. Nice. And what,
Mhm.
can you tell us a bit more about, I guess, like your origin story, your chiropractic origin?
Yeah. I always knew I wanted to be in healthcare, so pre-med
Hmm.
was my path in college and undergrad. And chiropractic, I accidentally stumbled upon due to my mom's help, is what led me there. She had been seeking care for pain management and had gotten to the point where kind of reached her limit on how much anti-inflammatory and steroid medications she could have due to her diabetes. And so she was then referred out to a pain clinic. And at the pain clinic on staff was a chiropractor that she was scheduled to see. And at that time, very foreign to what chiropractic care was,
Mhm.
I was kind of like, oh no, like I got to go with you, right? My mom being uh, first, being an immigrant, she didn't really speak very well when it came to English. And so I'd always go with her to her doctor's appointments. And of course, this one, I was like, oh, I don't know about chiropractors. I got to go with you just to scope it out. And that's how we end up in this office. And because I had gone to all of her previous doctor's appointments, or most of them,
Mhm.
I always got to see like what that interaction was like, right? You arrive, you check in, you get seen, you get to talk, you get evaluated, and that's it. So it's like this short little encounter. And we went to this chiropractic office, and like the intake was lengthy, the exam was lengthy, and it was like, oh, interesting, right? So just like a observational thing there. But the exam was almost like, why is he asking this? Why does that matter? And now in hindsight, it really just showed the way that the physician was connecting all the dots of her health and coming to a clinical picture, which ultimately led us to when he was like, "Oh, you need to go see your kidney specialist." You can imagine my like confusion. I was like, "Wait, we're here for pain. What's going on?"
No.
Uh, and he basically drew the conclusion of the pain that we went in for was in her foot was a result of excessive fluid retention due to kidney dysfunction. And
No.
shortly after that visit, we went in and followed, his recommendations and got the official diagnosis of chronic kidney disease.
Wow.
And so the chronic kidney disease was the cause and the root cause of why she was having this excessive swelling and therefore pain because of nerve and orthopedic changes that were occurring at the level of the foot and the ankle. But yeah, so that's kind of what led me to chiropractic. And I just remember us leaving that clinic a little confused, but also the most satisfied as a patient. My mom had just been going to each doctor's appointment with so much anticipation and like, okay, we're going to figure it out now. We're going to get it now. And it would just end up with like a referral to the next. And this physician just kind of took the multidisciplinary background that he had and was able to explain where it's coming from. And so we both left very like pleased and like, okay, we got some answers, right? That's what ultimately we were looking for.
Yep.
And she followed treatment plan with him and got some relief from a musculoskeletal standpoint, but also ultimately we were able to manage her chronic kidney disease, which gave us, the upper hand on our health. So that exposure, that was my first time encountering chiropractic. And then my own health journey in college, I have just like the worst so-called IBS case, like irritable bowel syndrome, right? I'm like, man, not eating that bad. Like it would always get chalked up to, oh, you must have these GI issues because you have the college diet or you're drinking. And I was like, man, this doesn't seem right. Because even when I was really strict on my diet, I was still having the GI issues. And so the chiropractic encounter with my mom had me just explore a little bit more. And we did low back x-rays. And that's when I found out I had scoliosis in the low back due to excessive growth on my transverse processes at L4, L5, which is what's causing nerve compression to my colon. And so turns out my GI tract, bowel movements, all that is disrupted by my lumbar spine. And so we could start chiropractic care and health is great. Digestion's better and resolve it. So that ultimately, I think that was my aha moment. Like, this is where I want to be. I want to get results. I want to understand what's causing it. And I want to treat accordingly.
Gotcha. Okay. So you mentioned that your mom and assuming your dad as well, immigrants?
Yeah.
To the U.S. Well, where from?
We're from Pakistan.
Okay. Awesome. And so you said this was your first exposure to chiropractic care. Is there chiropractic care in Pakistan, or maybe just not in the area that your parents came from? Or
there's a lot more concentration on like Ayurvedic medicine and practices, but chiropractic, I don't think as much. There is more of a presence now, but back then, definitely not.
Okay. And then how did your, pre-med studies, maybe prepare you or unprepare you, or maybe did you have a bias going into like chiropractic when you first went to that appointment with your mom?
Yeah, we're in like 2000s, I would say it's like 2007 timeframe, and not that pre-med had created a bias, but like the exposure and knowledge of chiropractic was so little.
Yeah.
And so what I did gain from it, or like what I did learn about it when I had conversations or Googled it, was just always like, it almost made it sound like, okay, it's this theory versus a science and a practice. So I think that made me very like, okay, is it actual medicine? It made me kind of wonder what does that mean when it's a theory, right, versus a practice. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I had a similar view. I think I'd heard about chiropractic care growing up, but didn't really know much about it. And some of the people I'd heard about it from chalked it up to theory or kind of woo-woo medicine, that type of stuff. And it wasn't until I met Dr. George and Dr. Tony, you both know, and it coincided really well with like anatomy classes I was taking in college. The way that they broke down chiropractic care really just, it made sense. I think you experienced that as well. It's just like, oh, okay, this is what's happening in the body. your
Yeah.
spine and your nervous system works, etc. Things get out of alignment. You can pinch the signals, etc.
Correct.
Do you mind talking
Exactly.
a bit more about what exactly chiropractic care addresses in the body?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So you kind of nailed it perfectly. So it's your nervous system. It's regulation of your nervous system, identifying if there's any disruption. So your nervous system is made up of your brain and your spinal cord, signals moving from the brain out to the body, from the body, inwards, taking the information in and up to the brain. So that pathway is housed by your spinal cord,
Mhm.
or your spinal cord is housed by your spine, right? Your spinal column houses that very precious organ and system. And so chiropractic's approach and philosophy is making sure that that pathway that's controlling every single cell, organ, every single like level of communication in your body, making sure that that's functioning well.
Mhm.
So quality of life comes from functioning well. For me, um, end game is longevity and getting there in a healthy fashion and enjoying life as you go. And how much how much health you have as you age is kind of more the measure of wealth and success and happiness. It really is. The more years I'm in practice, the more that just gets highlighted every time.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And you've already attested to the fact that this has improved your quality of life, your mom's quality of life, etc.
Oh yeah.
I can also attest to mine and my wife's and other extended family as well, most of whom also had a very suspicious view of chiropractic care. And we acknowledge too that just like you can have good doctors, in like, what's the term that I'm looking for? Your primary care. You
Yeah.
can have good primary care physicians and bad primary care physicians. Same with chiropractors. You can have good
Totally.
chiropractors and bad chiropractors as well. And so, um,
Right.
if you had a bad experience, sorry that happened. Check out Dr. Sara. So if you're in the Chicagoland area.
Yes.
so, so when did you join up with Chiro One?
So 2014 is when I joined Chiro One.
Okay, awesome. And how long have you been at the Old Town location?
Um, 10 years. So 10 years this
Wow, you-
past October, I
you've
think.
been that long already?
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when because I was going to that center already, and I remember when you came in. Yep.
Oh yeah. Okay, okay. Because yes, I remember Dad being here, and then you also in, and then Aaron probably a couple of months or a year later or so.
Yep.
Wow.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, that's how Dr. Sara and I met at the Old Town location. That location was actually Dr. Jordan, Dr. Tony's location back in like 2005 or six, called Health for Life.
Yeah.
And then they joined up with Chiro One. And it's been one of their locations ever since. So, okay. Um, Earlier you mentioned, some terms that no doubt some people won't be familiar with, like L5, L6, and things like that.
Mhm.
Can you quickly, and even if you have a spine in your office, that'd be great, but can you quickly break down like the spine so that people know what those terms refer to?
Oh yeah. So I don't have my spinal model here next to me, but
Mhm.
um, our spinal column is broken into three regions, right? And so the top region is your cervical spine, often shortened and referred to as your C spine.
Mhm.
Your middle, which your thoracic spine, made up of 12 vertebrae, T spine, and then your lumbar spine is your low back, and that's 5 vertebrae. So yeah, you got your full spine, and then you got this pelvis at the bottom that the spine really rests on upwards. I always love using the anatomy or the analogy of a Jenga block tower,
Mhm.
and the way that your spine functions is like each segment stacks upon the one below it. And so when you're looking at the spine, especially in here in my clinic, we're really taking into consideration like how do they all kind of play off of each other, as you know.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, that was it definitely helps. And you all take an interesting approach too. I've heard from some other people who've gone to chiropractors where the intake isn't as thorough, even as you experienced for the first time. Imaging isn't really done.
Mhm.
stuff like that. And so, um, what would you say if someone's looking into chiropractic for the first time? What should they be looking out for if they visit a clinic?
Yeah. Um, Imaging, I think, is really, really an important piece. Um, just because there's so much we don't know about our anatomy until we like are able to visualize it, but also that exam, right? Sometimes we have patients, either children or pregnant patients, that can't get x-rays done because of, obvious reasons, but we want to make sure that that evaluation, that like workup, that exam is orthopedic. You're getting an orthopedic evaluation of your injury, hands-on palpation or spine palpation, because not everyone's in for an injury. Some people are in for just wellness and, hey, I do X, Y, and Z, and I want to be able to keep up with that. So
Mhm.
just having a thorough examination is a really important piece. And any physician will let you know that a lot of the diagnosis is in the patient's in the patient's history, in the patient's chief complaint, and how they describe it. When patients are talking, they give a wealth of, if you know what you're looking for, you know what to listen for as far as diagnosing a patient's intake and information. So the time that you get to encounter a patient on that first exam, really, you want to make sure it's a detailed and thorough exam, from the conversation and the intake to the actual evaluation itself.
Gotcha. Okay. What would you suggest, or how do I want to phrase that? I guess how important would you say that coming in with questions, like if you're a patient coming in for the first time, how important is it for the patient to have their own questions of the
Oh my
chiropractor,
God.
to be curious about their own health and anatomy, and not just kind of like, tell me what to do?
Yeah. That how important that is I would say like 9 out of 10, 8 out, like it's up there, because when you have questions, that observation of what you're observing, right? A question's an observation about your health or what you're catching. That's going to be really important, um, because it helps you also understand why is this even, why is chiropractic, or yeah, in I guess in terms of chiropractic, why is this a need, or why does this make sense?
Hmm.
Uh, some people do come in based off of the recommendation of friends and family, and
Yeah.
they're kind of like, well, yeah, I'm just here, but I don't really know, I don't know why I'm here. And then in that case, like, great, we can have a conversation and learn a little bit more, and there's opportunity there. But then the question, it still boils down to a question of like, what can this do for me, right? So when there are questions, there's always opportunity to learn what can be done, and always an opportunity to learn about yourself in that question, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I always say really important to ask the questions.
Awesome. Awesome. How is your, so your mom has been to a chiropractor. How has chiropractic been received by other family members once you got into the
Oh my gosh. Uh,
profession?
that's a great question, because my dad, when I told him I was, changing paths, was probably my biggest challenge, where he was like, what are you talking about? Like, absolutely not. Like, we went through a whole phase of, I got the silent treatment from him. So a lot of like, just, and I think it stemmed from not knowing with myself, we didn't know what exactly it entailed. And,
Yeah.
um, but now like it is, he is like he's experienced his own issues, and he's always like, when are you coming over, like when can I get adjusted? So it's so interesting you ask that question, because now at family parties, like people are like, oh, can you take a look at this, or can you check this out, or like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
um and I want to be thorough, right? So like the problem with me is I'm like, please let me examine you, like I'm gonna follow that comment up with a million questions. Sometimes people are just not ready for it, but,
Uh,
yeah, so perception now, I would say, is more like a lot more open to it, and I would say even in the last 12 years of the profession, I remember getting into the field and found a lot of like, well, what is chiropractic? And now, with all the research out there, like, we're very lucky to be in a city like Chicago, where we have hospitals like Northwestern and Rush that see the research and now start having chiropractic advocated for. So now the conversation is not necessarily what is chiropractic, but who's your chiropractor has really become like, we'll ask patients, does so-and-so, has your spouse been evaluated, and it's like, oh yeah, my husband has a chiropractor, or my, so-and-so, my friend sees a chiropractor. So that piece is really cool to see in the last 12 years, just the evolution of chiropractic and becoming more common, because I think we're also moving towards this whole like health wellness prevention. We're seeing less drinking in our culture because we know the impact on our health, right? So we see this non-alcoholic shift. We see gym memberships. We have like multiple memberships to multiple types of health and wellness activities.
Yep.
So I think as we're pivoting to that as a society, it's neat that chiropractic gets to be in that as patients are advocating for self-preventative health care and questions asking, how can I sustain this lifestyle of working out X amount of times a week? And yeah, so
Gotcha. Okay.
very cool.
Cool. What would you say are the main handful of challenges that most of the patients are dealing with that come into? There's some people who are watching if they haven't considered chiropractic before, they may see themselves in one of these comments and areas.
Yeah. I would say like low back is definitely a majority of what we see. And beyond that, I would say like neck and headaches. A lot of people don't realize headaches have a big chiropractic can do wonders for migraines and headaches, but I would say low back, neck, headaches are probably our top. But I always love when patients are like, wait, you can do something for my feet, you can do something for my shoulders. And I'm like, yes. Like, these people just oftentimes, like you mentioned, think, oh, I need to be in pain, or I need to have had an injury of some sort to go to a chiropractor. And that's not necessarily the case. And we get to see more of that kind of coming into conversation where people are seeking it out proactively as a preventative form of healthcare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. There's definitely a shift. I've seen it in myself for sure. And then, culturally, more people taking ownership of their health and seeking out ways to preserve it and build for the future, as opposed to just being reactive and going in when something is like really painful.
Correct. Yeah. Totally.
Okay. With the low back, what are some of the most common causes?
Oh man. The low back, I would say the most common causes are just like our anatomy can set us up to be, our anatomy can either be really helpful in keeping us from being injured, or it can actually be like the biggest reason that you and I can have had the same posture and same habits, but my low back has some anomaly, right? Or like some biomechanical variant that then makes me more disposed to, or me more prone to low back pain. So I would say biomechanical causes are probably the most common. Because it's never like, oh, it just came out of nowhere. I think that's always a really funny conversation that people are like, oh yeah, it was fine. It came out of nowhere. Well, this injury probably happened just on Sunday after a workout. But why did the injury kind of happen, right? And so we'll talk about more like what was it in your anatomy? What was it in your execution that made this movement that you're used to do so agitating this time around? So it comes down to biomechanics, comes down to our daily like postures. Are we sleeping a certain way? Are we sitting a certain way? Are we taking enough breaks from the sitting to the standing variable options? Being a heavy sitting culture, especially like pandemic, we got to really learn how much we sit, right? And so that's a big piece of it too. I think sedentary postures due to being in the office, being at a computer, that's probably a big piece of what we're seeing too. Muscle imbalances that come in from that.
Gotcha. Okay. Then for the neck, would you say that there's probably some connection to our posture while we're seated? And I've also noticed even when in clinic, You all sometimes correct us when we're on our phones because we're usually
Oh my gosh. Uh, that is huge. Tech neck is always a thing.
Yeah. Okay. What? So I guess intuitively we can say, okay, if I'm leaning over like this, that cannot be great. But what is actually happening to us? What stress are we causing when we're in this position for prolonged amounts of time?
Loading of your muscles. So that's going to be two different chains at play, right? We got the front chain when your head's looking down, and that's the actively contracting chain. And
Mhm.
then you have your posterior chain of muscles, which is being put under prolonged tension, right? So that's happening. And then what's happening to the joint is the muscles are at the end of the day responsible for joint movement. So if we have all these faltered movement patterns from the muscle, that trickles into how the joint moves. And as you've seen through like imaging and x-rays, the curvature can change, right? And so the biggest impact of that looking down, or even just jutting when we're sitting at our computers and our desks, the biggest impact we're seeing is more structural impact.
Yeah.
Did I answer the question? I'm not even remembering what the question was at this point, but
Yeah. So the structural, the loading of the muscles, the
yeah,
um, the strain on the muscles that then are responsible for moving the joints. And if you have movement disruption or function disruption, then the movement patterns start to suffer, et cetera.
exactly. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Great. Okay. Talking me. What is the question? Yes.
Okay. How do you all, one of the things that's been really cool about Chiro One, and that I've heard that not all chiropractors approach things this way, but it's um, the physical therapy aspect that's also included, and not just the adjustments. And so can you tell us more about, how you approach that and incorporate multifaceted, I guess, disciplinary, experience into the care plans for patients?
Yeah. So to me, the musculoskeletal system is what's supporting that spine, right? So you have your joints, but you also have the muscles. And if we're here to support the spine and what it houses, which is our spinal cord, um, joint movement alone is is great, but it's so temporary, right? That's where the muscles and the PT comes into play, to help correct those movement patterns, to help give the feedback. We have this amazing phenomenon called neuroplasticity. And that's where like the adjustments and the PT really are just such a great combination. Because we have neuroplasticity, there's opportunity to recover from an injury or change anatomy or change structural like postures that we hold, in the sense that we can also then prevent by changing, we can then prevent like long-term outcomes of a forward head posture, right? Or the
Yep.
long-term implications of having a lumbar spine that's hyperlordotic. So
What's
by
hyperlordotic?
huh?
What's hyperlordotic?
Well, like a sway back or an excessive curve in your low back. So having that piece of like PT, active PT, and then then we break down into different forms of PT to support the
Mhm.
different changes of the spine. So there's like therapeutic care where we have more active injury based PT, but then we move into more corrective physical therapy, which is to help complement the structural corrective piece.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, there's definitely multifacets to how you can adjust and how you can practice chiropractic. And our philosophy is if we want long-term change, we need to address both the muscle and the skeletal piece of that.
Gotcha. Okay. And are the physical therapy aspects, is that all like in clinic, or are there also like home exercises and routines that you give patients?
Oh yeah, definitely home exercises. Um, I think it's such a fun reaction when patients are like, wait, I'm going to see you how many times a week? And I'm doing in-clinic exercises. Isn't that enough? And not really, right? Like we are doing us and we're doing life 7 days a week, And so to also keep that momentum and get the change that we're kind of working on or get the goals we want to make sure that we're supplementing with like home exercises. What can we be doing after our workouts, or what can we be doing after work to help facilitate the end goal of better spinal health?
Gotcha. Okay. How do you all navigate? I mean, you can't monitor people at home, but how do you navigate the inevitable pushback or concern about, wow, this is a lot more than, I signed up for, is it really practical for me or needed for me to do all of this stuff? Kind of how do you coach people through, I guess, the shifts that they need to go through in order to post out of the care, but then also take more ownership of their health.
Yeah. That's great. In fact, we just kind of saw that this morning. A lot of it will just come back to the conversation and the questions of like, what is it that you're looking to accomplish, right? And like, okay, I'm looking. It's kind of just come back to the root goal and what the patient's looking for, and then if it's overwhelming, then we also can revisit like, how can we incorporate it into the day, right? Like, how can we make sure that if this stretch for your upper back or low back is so beneficial, and it's tough to get to, at what point in our day can we find opportunity to incorporate that? Then we also have conversations about supplemental DMEs, which are durable medical equipment that patients can also utilize and implement for offsetting the pressure and the impact of posture from standing, sitting, workouts, right? And so I think you may have had do you have your thoracic, lumbar, or orthopedic? Yeah. So yeah, and so we have orthotics for people with low back pains. There's various tools as well that we can offer. And honestly, when patients get results, like, we do every couple of visits, we do a check-in. And at that check-in, that's when we can spot, okay, so-and-so is doing their home exercises, or so is not doing their home exercises. In that moment, I think just being really authentic with the patient and like, hey, you're doing a great job, or we're seeing that we're not getting the results we want. What's going on here? Like, how can we pivot? Is this truly from us not getting, because people will just come in like, can I not do my clinic exercises? And it's like, why would you jip yourself of that, right? Like, so just having that conversation of, you're here, you're putting your time into this, and for the bigger picture of like being able to play your sport or come back from this injury, what's 7% of your day? Like nothing. Like 3% of your day. So it usually just comes back to even just having it's not the easiest conversation to have, but I think at the end of the day, people just have so much more willingness when they know that the benefit, it's temporary, right? You're doing these home exercises for a temporary period to get that bigger impact. But yeah, ownership, making those long-term goals and giving them tools outside of just exercises, like DMEs is another opportunity that we work with patients there too.
Awesome. That brings to mind a question. So for chiropractic care, a question that often pops up that I've had in the past as well is, how long do I need to do this? And is that the right mindset?
It's not the wrong mindset. I think asking questions is like, I don't know, as you probably learned so far, I love questions. And how long do I want to do this is, how long do you want to brush your teeth for? How long do you want to maintain healthy habits for, right? So, and the healthy habits can look different, right? People come in for 3 times. So we have like the more intense schedules and visits to more of a wellness and maintenance routine. But really my answer to that is, how long you choose to benefit from your care is really up to you. Getting care, there's so many scenarios. You can get care and patients can have their goals and expectations met, and they're kind of like, great, that's what I was here for. That's what I attained. And if I have any future needs, I'll seek you then. And then there's other patients of the mindset of, I see the impact of how much better my nervous system and my body is functioning, right? And I want to maintain that momentum. And we'll talk about how we do that, but at a less intense pace. So as far as like how long do people, I guess, want to invest in their health is really the question. Just boils down to what are you committed to do for your long-term gain of better function, right? Like as we age, getting older and like being independent, that's invaluable. So being able to achieve that through movement, right? Movement, well, what kind of movement is that? Could be exercise, could be chiropractic, could be both. I think that's kind of the bigger picture is chiropractic is here as a tool to maintain movement, healthy joint movement, healthy spinal movement, and healthy nervous system.
Got it. What? So you had a good experience with chiropractic care and you want to be in healthcare. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want to be in healthcare?
Oh, healthcare ever since, oh man, I think ever since as a kid, I always found the body to be just like, it blows me away. I will never not be amazed and infatuated with how incredibly complicated our bodies are.
Yeah.
I think that concept is so cool, and healthcare means being able to understand the craziness of those systems and putting that information together and processing it. Yeah, I just love healthcare for that reason. And I guess medicine application of healthcare specifically, because there's so many different fields within the healthcare field that you could be in. But that's always been my draw, is just the body's so incredibly faceted and it'll never bore me. I can never be bored. I can see the same low back injury, and every injury is so different and unique as it is similar, right? Like we can start to identify patterns that we all, certain complaint can present with, but then of course we're never the same body. So like you can have the same low back injury, but you could also have the same low back injury and get a completely different response and result because our bodies are so cool and so different.
Awesome. What's been one of the most rewarding surprises from treating so many different people over the years?
Oh, I think the rewarding is definitely the quality of, like, you could say the non-scale wins, right? So like, it's not that your pain's gone down, but it's like, patients will come back and say they've done something that like could sound so silly to someone else, but it's such a win for them, right? So like anytime a patient comes in is like, oh my God, I was able to fold my sheets today without any like discomfort, right? Miss Belinda came in and said that. And when people can play with their kids and get on the floor because they're not scared that they're going to have an injury, or they can be the coach for their soccer team. Or even we have a bunch of vet surgeons that are in, and it's like, how can I get through this surgery without discomfort? And they're like, oh my God, I got through a 3-hour procedure and I didn't get distracted by my pain. So it's like the most rewarding thing is when patients are able to like observe and see the shift in their function. Like you're literally unlocking your full potential and like being able to be like, oh, headaches are not normal. Like, and I had a full week without a headache. And then patients will be like, oh, I went a full month without a migraine. And I'm like, you were living with migraines, like an insane amount of migraines. And just like knowing the difference and getting the care and being able to experience like, oh, I can live, I can function, I cannot be distracted by pain is the most rewarding thing ever.
Awesome. Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. I would say I've experienced some of that myself as well. Obviously, we're working through some current, pain issues and stuff like that I'm addressing. But yeah, I could just think back over the years and some of the things that I've experienced in the past, like different pain, just didn't know what the cause or source was. And then the knowledge that, I've been armed with coming to you and Chiro One over the years, um, takes some of the fear and concern away, because now you actually know what's happening. Like you all experienced with your mom. Like, oh, okay, now we have some answers.
Yeah.
Now we can actually move forward and plan and address this issue. Um, so that's been really helpful. And then also just you all's, your knowledge base and, the care, the improvement of life. And I would say too, it is a mindset shift for a patient to go from um, I'm seeking medical care because something is wrong, to I'm making a habit of checking in with medical professionals, um, as a preventative measure. Because as I heard recently, there was, this person was wealthy, but they go to the doctor like once a month. And another friend of theirs asked, like, why do you go so often? Like, you only have to go like once a year. Then, the recommended. He was like, well, I go because something could develop between my 1 year appointment and my next 1 year appointment. And the difference in me going monthly can be the difference between major surgery or me having to take a pill to address something early on, as opposed to if we had caught it 11 months prior, we'd be in a very different situation. And so,
Mm.
yeah, that's been, something that I've been going through as well. A mindset shift
Yeah.
is just being able to prioritize your health in that way. So, and of course,
That's,
having
yeah.
kids definitely changes things as well.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I'm learning that.
Yeah, for sure. Um, well, I mean, I really appreciate your time, Dr. Sara. And there are more questions I had, but like I think I mentioned before, like I plan on inviting other guests back. And so like maybe we can talk about team building, or maybe there'll be an opportunity to, be in clinic and, get a tour and do a
So,
in-person
yeah,
event as well. So but yeah, greatly appreciate
that's
you.
awesome. Thanks for this conversation. And like the timing of this could have been more meaningful and on purpose. So as
Yeah.
I'm working with, it's team building time, and it's like having these conversations is just a sense of gratitude, right? When you get so used to doing something for so long, sometimes just need a good conversation to remind yourself, like, this is awesome. And props to you for taking taking this new adventure and getting all the pieces together and being so organized with your time, and especially when working with me, who's like, yeah, I'll get back to you, and your patience, and it's been a pleasure working with you too. Because the coolest also, I guess I should ask, I should add, is learning from you guys as patients, learning like how you guys multitask and juggle, and
Mm.
putting your health first is always such a nice reminder of, oh yeah, like there's if he's doing a Murph, I should totally try a Murph, right? Motivated. So very cool. So thank you for the opportunity.
Actually, bring one last question.
Yeah.
What piece of advice would you give to other doctors and practitioners about,
Mm.
I guess, how do I want to word it? How has your view changed over your career, on caring for and prioritizing your health? Like, did you function a certain way in the past where it was like go, 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 go? And has that changed over time? Like, are you more conscious about the need to recharge and care for your body and your mind, et cetera?
Oh yeah. In
Okay.
my 20s, it was that mentality of just like go, 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 and almost to the point of like burnout, right? Like,
Yeah.
and now how do you like, is that the question, is like what would be the advice piece to other
Yeah.
health professionals to slow down, or to carve out time for yourself? Um, I'm a big advocate of like practice what you preach.
Yeah.
So if my patients and I'm supposed to be your health and wellness guide, and I'm not implementing health and wellness on my end, um, well, that's not, I don't know, it's not authentic. And so I think when trying to, as a physician, care for others, it is that much more important to also put the time in and care for yourself. I would say health professionals are probably the most notorious for not going in for their primary or for their appointments or the yearlies because, oh, I know, right? Or I just don't, we don't prioritize it because we've become so numb to it because we're always around it.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, yeah, don't become numb to health. Don't become numb to what you know, what you're kind of, sometimes we just are victims of, we know so much and we forget to treat ourselves with the same criteria or with the same like care. So just grace and yeah, grace for yourself and accountability, all the good stuff, I guess. But one piece would probably just be if you're advocating health and wellness, which all health physicians are, you got to make sure that you're also practicing it.
Thank you again. And if anyone wants to get in touch with Dr. Sara or Chiro One, we will have information for that in the show notes. And yeah, if you're in the Chicagoland area, check her out.
Love to have. And yeah, this was great. Thank you so much for having me tonight, Brian.
Awesome. Until next time.
Take care.